I've definitely slowed down.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually a big step moving up from a CD-ROM to a girlfriend.
You're listening to the Stripped Podcast by the Lacrosse Flash, talking all things life and lacrosse with Tyson Geik and Colton Clark.
Once again, and just getting a piece of it was Aaron Bold. Loose ball in front of Jeff Cornwall. Jeff Cornwall's in alone. A chance to go ahead. Cornwall scores!
Colt, listen, you did so good with the last intro that I'm going to give you the floor for this one. This is a redemption tour after, the messing up of the Curtis Dixon tweets and the reading. So
that's fair. That's fair. I did do a good job last time. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Before we get started on this episode, we'd like you guys to just take 1 second and click the fucking subscribe button for us. It helps us out. Anyways, welcome back to episode 5 of the Strip Podcast. I don't know why we feel the need to keep count in this society, but we are. Anyways, I'm Colton Clark. I'm joined alongside with my co-host, someone I like to refer to as the Ryan Seacrest of sports.
I'll take it.
And also our producer, the young, sexy, mysterious Ben Jeffries. Today's a special show, Tyson.
Certainly is.
Today's a special show. Today, we have 2 guests. I could go on and on about their accolades, but I'm not going to. It'll take all day. On the podcast today, we are joined by 2 brothers who not only both play in the National Lacrosse League, but even more special, they play on the same team, the Saskatchewan Rush. And if you haven't guessed by now, I'm talking about the brothers Cornwall, Travis and Jeff. And thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to come down here and hang out with us on the podcast and share your stories and who knows what else. We'll see. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, when I've said this with our past few guests, and we've been lucky enough to have some great guests so far, but you two were 2 guys that came to mind when we started this, not only because of geography and your location kind of being close to us, but your involvement in the National Lacrosse League. And Travis, you specifically, I think when I started with the NLL a couple of years ago, you and I have kind of been in contact, or you'd watch Relax and you had a close watch on the stuff that we were doing, and you would kind of send recommendations or maybe things that we might have missed. And you've had a close eye on that. So maybe we'll start with you. Why do you feel that you're a player, or why have you taken it upon yourself to have more of an interest in that and the development of the league and maybe digital media?
I just think it's important for the growth of sport, right? Like if I have something to say, something to add, usually I won't put it out there on Twitter for everyone to see. Probably one of the bigger DM warriors on Twitter out there, just messaging people around the league and just sharing my opinion. If I think they messed up on something or they got something wrong or they're misrepresenting something, just let them know. So maybe next time we can get it right. But really that's it for me. Just trying to make sure that everything's represented the right way.
But even beyond, being a DM warrior, you attend the meetings with the PLPA, and you're always offering your opinion on how to make things better. So why is that important to you, and why have you taken that on?
Just to be involved. Like I've been in the league 8 years now, so you kind of like when you're in a job for so long, you kind of have you build up your opinions about stuff. One of the main reasons I wanted to go is because I thought it might be a lot of young guys going to the meeting this year with the league, and I wanted to make sure that they were informed about what the PLPA was doing and stuff, and it wasn't just certain guys like the league wasn't able to like influence them in certain ways. So I want to make sure that there was like a strong voice there. When I got there, it turned out it was all guys that had been in the league like 8-9 years, Jordan McIntosh, Brett Hickey, that were at the meeting. So it was a really good experience.
What about you? What about you?
I mean, hard to follow that one up. I'm probably one of the quieter guys when it comes to league related things. Like my big thing for growing the sport is like, I like to give back to communities, deal with like the grassroots level. So a lot of coaching over the years. I think Travis and I have coached how many seasons right now? Like
Probably like 10 or 12 over the last 10 years.
Yeah, like consistently, we've coached at least like either a box team or a field team every year. And that's kind of my way of giving back to the sport. Guys like Travis do a big part of like helping it grow at the professional level. But I mean, without the kids coming up, which I think we have a handful of kids that we coached like in our first couple of years that are playing now. And
in pro.
Like, oh yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So that's my way of giving back. And that's like kind of what I pride myself in. outside of like the actual playing of the sport
Yeah.
is just being a part of like other guys starting out their careers and whatnot, and like seeing how far they go. So
You guys also have a lacrosse company, is that correct?
No,
Not anymore.
We tried our best.
Tried your best.
We tried our best, and then but you get like when you're playing 6 months of the year, and then you're teaching 4 or 5 days a week. Jeff's gone into firefighting,
And then to run a business is pretty difficult. Like
Yeah.
all that goes into it.
Yeah, so we ran a couple camps here and there, and they were fun.
Yeah.
Kids had a great time, but just didn't work out overall. Just trying to manage it all. Yeah.
Well, fire it back up. You know, you got a platform now that you can talk about it. If you
We got
want
the
to.
Lacrosse Flash backing.
But you
these games.
also probably wanted a little bit of time for video games, right, Jeff?
a little bit of time. Yeah.
I mean, it probably cut in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
What
Big video game guy.
big video game.
Get into that.
Yeah,
Cool.
Why video games for you? We'll start off light here in this podcast.
Why video games? It's kind of like all I've known. Like,
Please elaborate.
well, growing up, like I was never really a social butterfly. I made a lot of friends on like the 2D realm.
Dude,
Anything like animated or about like, fantasy quests and whatnot, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. I'd speedrun those games.
okay, so this is no joke.
So no, like it's deep.
Yeah.
It runs deep.
Wow.
So a lot of time you'd say is spent playing video games, but does it ever interfere in lacrosse at all?
Funny you say that.
with lacrosse?
Not as much. Like as I've gotten older and whatnot, like with the girlfriend and everything, I've definitely slowed down.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually a big step moving up from a CD-ROM to a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys gotta stay. Yeah, gotta stay out. There's
Down the rabbit hole. Here we go.
But I think like I can tell like a little story of when it got pretty complicated. So in the game that I play currently, I play a game called Path of Exile.
Okay.
It's like this big action role-playing game.
Yeah.
And every 3 months they have what they call like a reset or a new patch release where all the players on the game reset to level 1 with no gear, and like it's a fresh economy. So basically like any items you find at this time, it's like sell.
Yeah.
Like you can, in like a week's worth of time, you can get like 3 months worth of playing done just
Okay.
based on how much like you can sell stuff for and whatnot. So
I follow.
during this time, I try to go pretty hard. Usually like anywhere from a 24-hour to like a 48-hour stretch straight of playing.
Wow.
And when you're playing pro lacrosse and whatnot, you're traveling on the weekends and you see like, oh sweet, like we got a bye weekend this week where I'm supposed to be playing, like where I could be playing video games. So you like for the next like month and a half, I'm planning my character. I got my team in place, like 4 guys.
This is incredible.
Oh yeah, no, it goes deep. Like I have like 4 guys from Korea who I can't really talk to them that well, but like they know what's up. And then my
They're on
buddy
your team.
translates for me. So yeah, we like have a team that we run through everything with.
Wow.
And so I'm like, yeah, we're dialed in. This is great. And I remember it was like Tuesday that week. The reset was on Friday. And coach sends out an email saying, hey, yeah, like we didn't play great last week. So we're going to do a practice this weekend. You guys are flying out Friday. And like the tears started running down my face. Like I was so upset. And my team, when I let them know, like 4 of them didn't know what I was saying. So it was fine. But like the other guy, he was pissed. So, like, sorry, Kenji, next time.
I'm glad you dug into that, and there's a reason that I wanted you to dig into that. For those of you guys who don't know, Jeff and I have actually spent some time playing on a lacrosse team together, 2 summers in the WLA for the New Westminster Salmon Bellies. And I recall one game, I can't remember who we were playing. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were all in the dressing room. It was probably, we had done the first warm-up, we had done the second warm-up, and everybody's like, where the fuck is Cornwall? And you rolled in the door literally as we were lining up to go out to get our names called, and you come rolling in the door. I went back and I'm like, where the fuck were you, man? You're like, oh man, this online battle was going on. And I'm like, you were playing video games.
For some guys, it's drinking. For some guys, it's girls. Jeff's late to game because he's playing video games.
So why not video games for you then? Like growing up, it was just something that found him. Like the video game life didn't. I didn't choose the video game life. It chose
I
me.
didn't. Yeah, that's him. I didn't choose the video game.
Yeah,
life.
okay.
I don't know. He had one good friend growing up, Scott. They played video games all the time together, Super Smash Bros. Like all the way through the night with
Those
their
are
sleepovers.
awesome game.
Well, he'll 10-0 you right now. Won't take a single point. Like N64.
Oh, yeah?
Super Smash, like 100%.
I stand by that.
Stand by that 100%. There was a guy in high school the whole time in high school, like, Jeff, I can take you for sure. 3 years later, we're in like grade 12. Kid finally comes over to our house. 2 minutes later, 10-0, no
Just
damage.
leaves, just
Kid
head
just walks
down.
off. See you later. Like,
Yeah.
Greg Peters, shoot your shot, buddy.
I love all the call outs we got going here. This is incredible. Let's go back to the meetings, which I think there's some fans out there that probably don't understand that these even go on or that players have their say and they're heard. So give us a little bit more light on that and walk us in and through what actually happens during those meetings.
yeah, so it was the first meeting between the players and the league. I think after the CBA negotiations, the league realized that like the players had a lot of things they wanted to say and a lot of input. Like guys have jobs outside of the league that would be useful for the league. Right? Like Brett Hickey's like a recruiter, right? He recruits people with that companies want and stuff like that. So he has input from his day job that the league could use his insight, right? So we're going to the league meeting. They set up, so basically we did interviews to get in. Then they set up like the itinerary. We go to the draft. Then the next day, I think we had 8 hours of meetings. They're presenting to us. We're presenting to them. We're bouncing ideas off each other. Like we get into certain things. Like one of the conversations was around transition to full time and like what the league's plan was for that. Like they want to add a team 3 years in a row here, get to 16, settle in. And then after that, try to transition to full time. And I like put up my hand. I'm like, well, what's the plan to transition to full time? What have you guys planned to do it? And I think that was helpful to the league because like he looks at me, the commissioner, he's like, well, we haven't really thought about what the transition looks like. We know when we want to start planning into it. I'm like, I kind of went off in the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you realize what kind of jobs we have outside of lacrosse?
Right.
Like you're going to lose if you decide like full stop, we're going full time. That's it. 3 years from now, you're going to lose like a third of the guys in the league.
Right.
Like for sure. Like we got doctors, we have lawyers.
You
I'm a
guys
teacher. I don't make that much money.
Sure.
But I can't give up my pension
Exactly.
and like my full-time pay to maybe play another 3 years in the league.
Right.
That's not going to work out. So I'm like, do you guys have a plan? Like, what's the plan to make the transition? There was some lip service to it a little bit, but they kind of want to make a committee, get people's opinions, do some surveys, figure stuff out, right? But it's like, and even guys like, like we got some great players in the league that have really good jobs outside of the league. You can't give that up at the end of the day. Right. So, and they like to talk about getting jobs with the league after it's all over. Right. Like, oh, if you gave up your teaching job, played in the league for another 3 years, 4 years, there might be a job ready for you. But it's like the might. Like I need like
a little bit more security.
And I know you can't offer that to me.
Yeah.
I know you can't be like, oh, you're going to be a coach. Oh, you're going to be an announcer. Oh, you're going to be whatever. But like, I know you can't do that.
Right.
I can't give up what I have going on. Right.
Yeah.
So
Do you have any ideas for them, how they could change that or what the transition would look like?
I think it just comes down to money, no? Like if a guy's making six figures.
But if a guy's a doctor, say Curtis Manning, is he gonna? So that you say,
All right.
you're gonna make 150 grand a year. He goes, great. Okay, he can't play. You know, you're not gonna be a doctor or a lacrosse player for maybe 10 years. He's maybe an exception to that. He's been in the league longer than that, but still, like,
well, there's got to, the transition's going to be an interesting phase, right?
I think you're gonna lose a lot of talent doing that. Right? Guys are real estate agents. Guys, like you said, doctors, lawyers. Well, I don't know if there's any lawyers anymore, but Mac Allen was a lawyer. Was probably the last one that I know.
Mac Allen was Dylan Ward's in law school.
No.
Reed Reinhold. I think
Reinhold,
Reinhold's a lawyer.
Reed's a lawyer
He's
now.
articling right now.
He's back
I know
with
Dylan
Toronto,
was
so.
doing something along those lines. I can't exactly remember.
He's watching
But-
Law and Order, I think.
Suits.
It starts
I can't
somewhere,
remember why
boys.
I remembered him being one of the guys, but there was someone that was going to law school. Anyways, but not even just those guys. Like, again, I'm just a teacher. I don't make that much money outside
Right.
of lacrosse. If you offered me 150 G's a year to play lacrosse, you might get me.
Mhm.
Like, if you offered it tomorrow, in 3 years from now, I'm 33 then. Like, how many years do I have left? Right? Like, actually, well, you know what? If they did that, they go to 16 teams. That's enough teams for me to play for a while.
Yeah.
Then they transition to full time. We lose a third of the league. I could play for a while.
Right.
But like 150 grand, like it just doesn't do it. So you have to find a way to like kind of finagle it. The first thing you have to do is convince young guys that like the league is going to be there for them full time when they turn 27, 28.
Right.
So they don't turn into a 29-year-old like me that has a career. Like you got to convince
You
those
say
guys.
it like it's the worst thing ever. Like
Come
I
to
have
my
a
job on
career
Monday and tell me.
You'll be a recruiter for the NLL one day.
Well,
Worry about your career.
maybe
Come to us.
maybe from a transitional period, and this is kind of happening right now, right? Like you got some guys who are living in market, and that's kind of their bread and butter. But you need like 50% of your team, and then maybe like some kind of, I don't know if you want to call it exceptional player status or something like that, but
maybe for like a couple years.
yeah, there's a couple guys that you make the exception for, like Manning, like you said, right? He's a doctor. You're not going to give that up because you'd be stupid to do so.
Doc Lax.
Right. So is there 5 guys maybe per roster that you make that exception for?
Where they might not be like at every game, but they're going to make the ones on the weekends and then be
Right.
there for playoffs or whatever it is. And
At
like,
least to
they
start.
can go in on and off the roster. Like, honestly, I have no idea what it looks like, but we're going to go to 16 teams, hopefully in the next 3
Yeah.
years. That's going to be a big change. People are worried about the league getting diluted and stuff. I'm not too worried about that. But when you lose a third of the players and they're mostly your older guys,
Yeah.
established veterans in the league, because like there's no 24-year-old that's like, oh yeah, screw that 150 grand. I'm focused on. Like,
Right.
There's not many of those guys around. But like the guys that are 30 plus, they're looking at their lives outside of lacrosse and how much time they got left.
Yeah.
It's a difficult transition to make.
It's a grandfathered in kind of thing, I would
Yeah.
think too, right?
Like, it's got to be like, I understand why the league's more focused on getting to 16 teams
Mhm.
than they are on the transition itself at this point, because the transition doesn't happen unless we get more teams in.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like I think that is one of the biggest problems facing the league.
So if we talk about going to 16 teams, we've got a couple of markets that have been rumored to be getting lacrosse. Jeff, I'll turn this to you. Where would you like to see professional lacrosse have a home? Give me a couple markets and give me a reason why.
Just like Japan.
Yeah.
Video game.
Dude,
Anime and video games.
Don't act like you wouldn't go. Like that's awesome.
I would, dude, sign me up. I'd be a GM of that team in a heartbeat. Go ahead.
I think like a couple markets come to mind. Cities like Nashville, Vegas would be unreal. Although I don't know if it'd be great for all the players.
Very true.
But could be an awesome spot for it. I'd like to see Edmonton get a team back.
Yeah.
I had a great time playing there.
Yeah.
And with like all the establishment that's going up around like their sports city, basically.
Yeah.
Oilers are doing well too, so that doesn't hurt.
True.
Like I think those would probably be my like top 3 right now that I'd like to see teams pop up in. Montreal too.
Mhm.
They've had a couple of exhibition games there and whatnot, and I've only heard great things. I've never been myself, but there's been small murmurings that it would be an awesome city for it. So hopefully that works out.
Travis, your turn.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Come on.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Bring 'em
Bring 'em
back.
back. They had like 8,000 fans a game minimum.
The General.
Fans are into it, like 100%.
Oh, they were hardcore in Minnesota.
And they also have like the best Italian restaurant in town.
Yeah?
that I'm like dying to get back to one day. St. Paul, yeah, Casetas. Shout out to Casetas, downtown St. Paul. Love that place.
So I guess for it to happen, for more teams to come into the league, you would need more games, correct? So weekends are only so long. You now have to do weekday games, and that's, you're going to be.
Stretch the season.
I think it would definitely help, but you need a TV deal. I think, you got to replace
I think
two and a
that's-
half broke men or whatever the show is, and maybe replace it with a lacrosse game, and then you gain viewership.
Maybe just the beer darts they're showing on TSN. Just replace that with a lacrosse.
That's
game.
a big hit, though.
Don't take away the
So
darts,
here's-
man. Come on.
Here's the thing about darts and poker when it's on TSN. And there's a lot of fans that step up and they're like, well, you're putting darts on TV, you're putting poker on TV. But what I think they're missing is that those games, what do you call those? Matches?
Well, they're athletes. They're athletes.
Sure,
So
Yeah. So those are already produced by other companies, and all TSN is doing is redistributing that, and it doesn't cost them any money. So to go and put a lacrosse game on television, like each broadcast costs about $80,000.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what people are kind of missing is it's just not like, poof, we got lacrosse on TV.
Ben, are those real numbers?
What?
Can you look that up?
Well,
Just
like,
trust me on this.
We're not
I know
fact based here, so
I know the league's really happy with their BR Live deal.
Yeah.
Like just from one of the first days of the meeting in
Yeah.
Philadelphia this year, the BR Live, the Turner Sports president came and talked to the group of players. he was just going through all the different analytics they can look at, especially since it's like a subscriber-based model, like delivered through the internet. Like if you turn on TSN doesn't really know much about you and stuff like that. But if they get you through Twitter or they get you through BR Live, they can figure out like all this sort of data on you to advertise directly to you. And the league's really looking at that from an expansion standpoint and just like getting more fans engaged.
Yeah.
So they're really happy with the BR Live deal. I think this is our last year of the deal.
It is, yeah.
And they're trying to re-up that coming up next year. So, and the numbers, the metrics on the BR Live, they're steadily improving. So they think that they can get a bigger deal with BR Live coming up, hopefully. So
I think the quality is much better. I mean, the consistency across the board, especially when I started with the NLL and like producing content, like you just see the clips that I'm throwing into certain videos. I'm like, finally, you got that consistency. But at the same time, we talk about this time and time again, you don't have fans able to stumble upon lacrosse yet. Like maybe online and they're digital. And Nick's talked about this quite a bit, is that a lot of people, when they're watching lacrosse, they're consuming it from a mobile device. That's one thing that he likes to go back to. But I still think you just need it in bars and you need people to be able to kick back on their couch and watch it. But so I'm going to be interested to see what route they choose to go. I think that what the PLL has done, having like NBC Gold and stuff, it's great to have it on your phone where you can subscribe to that service. But those games are also on TV, and those games were also redistributed on Sportsnet last year. So how does the PLL beat the NLL to the punch there? And with the quality and that consistency that I was talking about with BR Live, why can't you now get Sportsnet to redistribute that, or TSN to redistribute that now? That's what I'm just wondering why that hasn't happened yet.
we're pulling in so much sponsorship right now. Like, who do we just sign? AT&T this week.
That's a good one.
When you think about it, like how much. I'm not an expert, and from the meetings, my favorite presenter, the favorite guy that's working for the NLL right now, is the guy that's selling our sponsorships. I can't remember his name. Kevin Morgan or something.
Kevin Morgan, he's a solid dude.
He was solid dude, impressive overall. But like, how much more money could we get from AT&T if they were a commercial on a free broadcast? Like, so our game's on Twitter, free broadcast. We double the numbers, triple the numbers of people watching it. We don't get money from BR Live, right? But we get more money from AT&T because now their advertisement is getting watched by more people, right? Like, there has to be a tipping point somewhere there where it's better to give it away for free because we get more money out from our advertisers than it is from. So I was thinking about that this week just a little bit. And like, those are the type of questions guys were asking of the league at the league meetings. And it was nice it's good for the league. They might hear some stuff that they haven't thought about, but also they can give answers to those guys. And then we can take those answers back to our teams and explain stuff to them, like the way things are working.
I spoke with an exec from CBC Sports a few years ago when we were talking about the NLL and stuff and just, the development. And it came up where I think they were talking about getting like Red Bull Crashed Ice or something like that on TV. And what Red Bull did was they went to CBC and they're like, hey, take it for free, air it whenever you want. And these races were coming up at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, but at least they were on TV. And finally it was a bit of publicity. So even if there's a tape delay or whatever, like get these games on TV. But I will say, I think the NLL has done a better job, or team specifically, in getting these games at least in regional markets, right? So people in SAS can watch their games. I think there's a delay on that one on global, right?
I don't live in Saskatoon, so I couldn't tell you that. I'm on NBC.
Yeah.
I've been there twice in like 2 years now. So
I
don't really know.
last year. So
I love that idea. I'd love to come home from the bar, sit down with a nice, pizza or poutine, whatever I got, and have a lacrosse game on the TV instead of Red Bull Crash Ice. And you know what? I know you guys don't drink, so we'll parlay into that. Why don't you guys drink?
That was a hard cut on that topic into that one.
90 degrees. You want to take it? Go ahead. I'll add to it.
Have you tried water? That stuff's awesome.
We're drinking it.
We're drinking it right now. We got to work on these coasters, man.
I don't know. We grew up, so like it's a tough. I remember being in grade 6. Our dad was always very upfront with us. Like I'm talking like we're 5 years old. Our dad's telling us, he's like, "Oh, you guys want to be athletes. You want to be good. Like there's 3 reasons like guys don't end up like making it all the way." And he's like, drugs, alcohol, women. And he's like, 3 things. I'm 5 years old. And he's telling me like, you want to make it. And like from a guy like our dad, like he won a national championship playing football, dabbled around in the CFL a little bit. Like he knew what he was talking about. And we had that level of respect for him. He's never had a drink in his life. Our uncle's never had a drink in his life. My mom doesn't I think the last time I saw my mom drinking was like New Year's, turn of the.
She has like a glass
turn
of
the millennium.
wine.
She's like glass of wine like once a year maybe. So it's just kind of the environment we grew up in. Like my dad's never been a guy that's needed any sort of social lubricant to like move around a room and talk to people. So that's been our example our whole life. So when it's like that, and then once you've not been drinking for long enough, you kind of see what's going on. You're like, they think it's cool and like maybe it feels cool, but like it doesn't look that cool from this vantage point.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's
I
a couple
mean-
videos of Tyson that don't look that cool.
Maybe maybe it's my social anxiety, but honestly, like being in a bar sometimes when you're not drinking, like I've put myself in those shoes before. I'm like, I'm not gonna have a drink tonight, and I'm like, I'm just not having that much fun being here.
Yeah, you know what?
To be honest,
That's more of an issue with like you not being able to have fun not drinking.
maybe
More so
or
than-
like my social
Because
anxiety.
bars are
like I
pretty
just
fun. There's
mentioned,
people
but-
dancing, having a good time. People are
Yeah.
happy.
It can be a tough time. Like I get it. Like one of my keys, like when I go to the bar, I always get myself like a Coca-Cola or something like that, just so I have something to hold in my hands.
It's probably
So
worse
I'm not
for
just
you.
there like awkward and doing nothing, right? But like I just try to have like a Coke in my hand or something like that, just to so people think they can at least come and talk to me. I'm not like the weird sober guy at the bar.
Yeah.
I mean, I just play video
Yeah,
games.
Jeff
so
doesn't-
He doesn't
Jeff
even
like
put
I
himself in
don't
those
go
shoes,
to the
like-
bar.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about that stuff too much, but it works for me.
So, I mean, that's awesome. You guys had good role models and influences in your life. Lacrosse wise, who were you guys' biggest influences growing up? I guess I'm sure you played lots of other sports. Like anybody who plays lacrosse, you probably played a plethora of different sports. But who were your influencers?
Well, I got to give a big shout out to Neil Dinsdale and Jim McIntosh. Those are like not my first lacrosse coaches, but when we moved to Coquitlam, I think I was like 8 years old. I guess grade 3, 8 years old. Yeah. I was second year novice at the time. And I remember like the tryout to make that team and how like my pops had been pumping it up pretty good because the Jack Crosby was last year and he works at Bill Copeland. So he like sees all the young kids playing in the Jack Crosby tournament. And he's like, oh, Coquitlam, like these guys are good. Like you got to be like the best player you can be to make that team. So going into tryouts, I was like super pumped up, really wanted to earn my spot on the team. And like those coaches took a chance on me, being a new guy and whatnot. And they definitely kind of like fueled my love for the game because they showed that even though I wasn't exactly, like I hadn't played with all these kids for the past 4 or 5 years, they were still going to give me a chance because like I worked hard enough for it. So
Yeah.
I think they just looked at our dad and was like, "This guy's going to turn out to be huge, so let's make it across and like
We'll
this'll be-
invest."
we'll invest.
Yeah.
Invest early in this
And
one.
good investment.
No,
I think we should bring up the fact that you guys put us out of the BC finals in 2010 when we were on the same team.
Still in the Minto Cup.
And Minto Cup, but yeah, we lost to Orangeville on the way to the final. So
Good team.
sorry,
I mean, the inevitable was going to happen
Yeah.
again. Anyways,
Exactly.
we just skipped a
close.
step and got to.
Talking about that, I remember after that championship, I went up to Neil Dinsdale and Jim McIntosh, and I was like, "You guys never coached me. 'Cause I'd always be out of that age group, and then they'd start coaching the A1 team." But I was like, "Thank you guys," because without them, like Jeff wouldn't have been there in the same position. Marty, Church, Ben, like they're all in the same age group.
Yeah.
They're on that same team growing up, and I just went up there. I was like, "You guys never coached me, but like, thank you for like coaching these teams, so like we could be at this point right now."
Yeah.
For me, and like that's the biggest reason like we go back and coach, right? Like we talked about earlier, playing against guys that like getting those guys to the league, and we got a lot more coming. Like we had some kids that we coached 2 years ago, last year, that like they're going to be in the NLL like 100% one day. So, but yeah, we got like 5 or 6 kids now. Like Challen Rogers, we coached him for a couple years at Charles Best. Wesley Berg for a year. Magnuson.
wait, you coached Westberg?
Westberg.
We did, yeah.
We coached. Did you play with Westberg?
We
too?
coached Westberg
Yeah, he
the
was
year.
like-
We coached him the year after we won the Minto Cup with him because he was still in grade 12.
Oh my
Do
god!
the math on that. Yeah.
Wow.
The kid was in grade 11 when he won the Minto Cup. Went to like 4 more Mintos after that.
Jeez,
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that because I just remember playing against him, but I don't think I took a look at his, what year he
His
was
birth
born.
certificate.
Yeah,
Let
exactly. How
Let
old
me
are you,
see
sir?
the birth certificate.
Yeah. You're too young to be here.
You're too young. No, but like growing up for me, like obviously our dad knew nothing about lacrosse growing up, but he got us a stick when we were like 3 years old because he was working at the city at the rink in Bill Copeland, and like he's kind of famous around like the Burnaby guys. If you
Yeah.
talk to like the Burnaby guys that are like Mike Kilby's age and stuff, my dad would be at the rink and he'd let them all on the rink after hours or before practice and stuff like that. Like he'd open it up and let them on. And they got him a stick one time and he's like, he thought it was pretty cool. So we brought it home to us. He was our first coach. So you got to give a guy props who doesn't really know much about the sport, but he's willing to put the time in and like learn so he can teach you.
Mm.
But for me, my two coaches growing up, John Allen and Bill Bradley, like, I don't know what else to say. Like we've been coaching a team in the main rink before for practice. And I just like point up to their jerseys because both their jerseys are retired for the senior annex. And I'm like, you want to know why like Jeff and I are here right now? It's because of those guys. Like talking about like the sport gets sold. And like Jeff was talking about that a lot. Like it can be a very expensive sport to play and people charge a lot to get good coaching. Like growing up in Coquitlam, there's no way our parents could have afforded that. Like no way our parents could have afforded to put us in this lacrosse camp or this winter training program to get us ready for the season. But like we had 2 Hall of Fame coaches every single year coaching us.
Yeah.
Right. Like year after year after year. And like, that's why we go back to coach, like 100% full stop. It's because of guys like that.
Well, that's such a difference maker. And I think why Coquitlam is such a hotbed, right? Because they just have that access to great coaches and developing lacrosse in markets that don't necessarily have it, like Sask, let's say.
Yeah.
You need to have good coaches there and you're going to develop that good talent, but it starts with them and guys who know the rules and what techniques to be implementing and whatnot. So,
and I guess if you wanted to get a guy out in Sask, you're going to have to like, there's going to have to be some money involved to get him out of a place like Coquitlam to go to Sask to teach lacrosse. But like, end of the day, like we're Coquitlam Adnax. We're Coquitlam Adnax now in the summertime. We just got traded. We're back. We're Coquitlam Adnax until the day we die. And that's just kind of the way, that's the kind of way it is. It's just kind of bred into you from the start. I don't know what it is. And there's only a couple places in Canada where like lacrosse is on the same level as hockey in those places. Right. And it's like Coquitlam's one of those places. And it's just this like continual cycle of guys going back into the system and giving back. And just to be a part of that for the last 8 years coaching in the minor system, like we won like twice.
We've also gotten dusted a couple times.
Oh yeah.
A couple times. Oh yeah. Dusted a couple times. And just to send kids to the pros that hopefully one day will be willing to come back and give back to. Like we had actually one of the coolest things we had 2 years ago. We coached the midget team in Coquitlam and 3 of our players that had played for us 3 or 4 years before came back and helped us with the team. So that's almost even cooler than playing against those kids in the NLL.
Yeah.
Because like they saw us having so much fun coaching and they appreciated it so much that they wanted to do the same thing. Yeah.
What about at a professional level? Any professional athletes you guys looked up to? Favorites?
Video game characters, perhaps.
Well, there's a couple of those for sure. But at the professional level, I always admired offensive players, mostly because I wasn't allowed to cross center back in junior. But guys,
even just a professional athlete, like
professional athlete.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to give it to Donovan Bailey.
Yeah.
Always just because like speed is such like it's a pure thing. And it like when it can be applied to different things like sports, it's kind of neat. But when you have like people running like 100 meters as fast as they can, like Canadian athlete, I just remember watching one of his races. I think I was probably like 8 or 10 or something like that. And I like fell in love with running, but on my own, like I would never just run for the sake of running. I needed a reason to do it. So I was very fortunate to find sports like lacrosse where, there's opportunities to inject your speed into the game, and football that I played for a decent amount of time as well. So yeah, definitely like, I just remember that race. It was so cool. I don't even know if it's the Olympics or whatever, but I just remember looking at him being like, this guy's fast and everyone likes him just
I think
because
he won
he's
the
fast.
Olympics, didn't he?
Yeah.
He won the gold medal.
I like that.
Won the Olympics.
I like that because it's like you won the whole thing. If you won the 100-meter race, you win the Olympics.
Yeah.
I like that a little bit because it's like you're the fastest guy. There's no argument. There's no I might be faster than you on this day. Like you can argue all day who's the greatest lacrosse player of all time, but it's like no, this guy's Usain Bolt is the fastest human on planet Earth.
Right, it's
and
just
like
not
full
even
stop,
subjective.
It's just the time and that's all it is.
In
right?
that category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just across all sports, for me, like obviously Kobe's been in the news, unfortunately. Just like the competitive spirit that he put on display. And like being an intelligent person at the same time. Like you can be intelligent and you can have ideas and thoughts on different social issues or just whatever it is, right? At the time. And you can be hyper competitive and be like an all-star basketball player.
Mhm.
So like that guy, just well-rounded. And like, he was just he didn't take no for an answer.
Right.
Like there's stories that are coming out about him about like phoning up like the head of Disney and being like, how do you make movies? And like phoning up J.K. Rowling and be like, tell me how to make a book. And like, just because I'm going to do it, right? Like I'm going to do that. I'm determined to do it. And just like putting that on full display.
Great answers. Tyson, what about you? You know?
And who did I look
Yeah,
up to?
who'd you look up to?
And
Popular, right?
putting me up to spot on the
Don
spot.
Cherry?
Yeah, absolutely, hockey player. Don Cherry. No, don't get me started on that one. I was a Don Cherry fan growing up. I think he was a great guy, but I think he lost his edge years ago, and they should have put him on TV. But that's a whole other topic. Like I grew up, I think my first Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. Sorry to any Vancouver Canucks fans that are watching.
It'll be on Twitter, buddy.
They were digging deep, like 2013.
He's still a fan. He's still a fan.
No. My loyalty is with the Vancouver Canucks now. But my Maple Leafs jersey was Ty Domi.
Okay,
And
there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 28. I wore 2 and 8 growing up. And yeah, he was just a stud. He was so much fun to watch and a bit of an underdog. Like not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. And he put that on display perfectly. He's fun to watch night in and night out. So he's the first guy that maybe comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit smaller like him, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. See how short I am on.
But
You're
even back
watching?
then, he was like, I'm still going to be 6'2". I'm going to be 6'2". I'm going to be 6'2".
Yeah, and he beat the wheels off guys, so he didn't really,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so he's somebody tough to look up. Tyson doesn't beat the wheels off anybody, no.
Oh, man. I remember when you're a kid and you think I'm going to be 6'2". I'm like, what? We went to the doctor one time for like football physicals, and
You guys,
they did the growth chart.
Oh yeah.
They do the growth. This is your range when they're fully grown, and the top of the growth chart said 6'6". And me and Jeff went home and played basketball for the next like 7 hours straight. Like we're going to the NBA.
I'm gonna be a point guard.
Yes. So Travis, we were talking about dunk goals in the NLL, and this is a bit of a hot topic.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Dunk goals are great. Fans love them, but you just shouldn't be allowed to touch the goalie or the post before the ball goes in the net. Like I think that's full stop across the league. Like you ask anyone around the league, goal scorer, guy who takes a bunch of dunk goals, they'll all tell you shouldn't be able to touch the goalie or the post.
I agree with that one. I think
I disagree.
Nick Rose was talking about that
I
one.
think Nick Rose agrees as well.
Yeah,
Goalie
yeah.
union.
Yeah,
Hashtag goalie union.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think more goals, it's more exciting. It's better to watch. Everybody likes seeing those goals happen. Yeah, it's unfair for the goalies. It sucks when it happens to you, but I think you're going to see less goals. Like every single game, there's at least 2 of those goals.
So I like horizontal dunks, if you want to call
Dives,
them.
dives,
yeah, crease
dive
dive,
across
yeah.
the crease.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I like
a dive
dives. I
across
don't
the
like
crease.
dunks.
Dunk
I don't
from behind
like
the net where you jam your stick against the post.
Well, okay, you look at the Curtis Dixon. I remember a highlight. He wraps around the net one-handed on Evan Kirk when he's playing for the Black Wolves. It was unreal, like literally Superman through the air, one-handed, wrapped it around, dunk diving, whatever you want to call it. But I don't like the whole like stand up behind the net and like Matthews has the ability to do this because of his size. Brock Sorensen actually had a pretty decent one a couple years ago. But, coming over top, like I don't know.
You don't like
I
the
don't like
over-top
it.
aspect?
Yeah.
Like Mark Matthews even scored a goal where he picked up the ball on his good side, goes behind the net, and then wraps the ball all the way back around the goalie. So he comes around the net and he doesn't go to that post that's right there.
So he goes
wraps
far
it,
side.
But on the way
little bit
for the ball to get into the net, his stick goes all the way across the goalie's chest. Then it finally hits the goalie's chest and the ball goes in the net, right?
So that's what you're against.
I'm against the stick hitting the net before the ball goes in the net. Like at the end of the day, just about any play in lacrosse, any goal that you see, like a guy who catches a pass or a quick stick goal, or he spins through the middle and pulls up and takes a shot, all that stuff would be harder for a regular person to do, come on the floor and do that, than a dunk goal. Like for a dunk goal, you catch the ball behind the net and then you just kind of lay out, right?
Okay,
I just
fair.
don't.
You're talking about the
difficulty of it,
Yeah.
of doing it. And I think the league needs to do a good job educating the fans on like what is actually difficult about the sport, because they see that and they think it's, mind you, I haven't scored a dunk goal in my career. I also have not
There you
attempted
go.
a dunk goal in my career.
There you go.
But like when fans look at it, they see athleticism, they think it's exciting, but I'm like, there's so many more things that are going on in the game that are much more difficult and much more complex that we're not really catching on to or selling to the fans and saying like, this is what is really the difficult part of playing lacrosse, right? Whereas this goal is a little less complicated, I think, from my perspective.
Jeff, do you agree with your brother?
The big thing, like, because I didn't play last year, I noticed the dunk goal kind of appearing a lot more in like different teams' offenses. Like I think in the 3 games I played so far, I've been on an island, like defending 1-on-1, and then they have the other guy on the 2-man side standing behind the net, and it adds an element to the game, like from a defensive standpoint, that you have to learn to become a 1-on-1 defender, which wasn't really there before. It's always been like a 5-man system, team defense, which I think it's a neat aspect to require players to grow like that. I do feel like interfering with anything inside the crease it should be a crease call.
Yeah.
So like if your stick contacts anything in the crease before the ball goes in the net, I think by definition, like in the rule book, I think that is a crease call. But I like the setup of like how they're putting guys on an island, putting a guy behind the net and forcing that 1-on-1 play, because now you open up so much more space. You're forcing like longer slides and whatnot. And it adds an element to the game. I just think they got to clean up the calls around the dunk.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you want to see how easy it is to score a dunk goal, you watch a game against San Diego last year. I think they were up on us by like 2. They scored like 3 dunk goals in a row.
Casey Jackson every
Jackson
time.
a couple times.
Yeah.
Bubs on our bench is just like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Hates dunk goals.
Yeah.
But what does he do? We don't even have a play for a dunk goal. He just draws something up. We score like 2 or 3 in a row. Like we didn't do a dunk goal the entire season. No plays for it. No nothing.
Oh, so it became a part of the strategy to do so
in the middle of the game because our offensive coordinator's like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
These goals are ridiculous. Whatever. Here's a play. Go do it. Scored like 2 or 3 in a row. Won the game. Like that's the level it's at with the dunk goals. They're very hard to defend. They're difficult to defend. And they're just too easy to like. I don't know, right? Like that example where it's like we don't even have a play.
Yeah.
But we're just getting so annoyed with this. We don't think it should be part of lacrosse, but we're going to do it because it's too easy. Let's win this game.
If you can't, what is it? If you can't beat him,
Can't beat him, join him.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things,
right? Yeah.
Interesting. It comes down to a bit of a chess match in that regard, right? It's like this is going to be you're using that. We'll match this.
Yeah.
I like it. It's interesting. I don't agree that you can hit the post. You shouldn't be able to hit the post. I agree with that. You shouldn't be able to hit the goalie. I also agree with that. But diving from behind the net, over top of the net, if you're athletic enough to dive around the goalie, fucking go for it. If the league's watching, keep the rule.
Like I said, I like the wrap. I don't mind the wrap.
Yeah.
I just don't like the over top. So if you want to come around the post fine, but no crossbar.
For
That's
me,
my
take. If you can wrap it around and throw it in and stop your stick before your stick hits the net, goal. 100%.
That's tough.
So
because to get that trajectory on the ball.
But did you hear what you just said? You said that's tough. Because the original one isn't that bad, right?
So
like,
we're looking at
tough
difficulty.
to come up like this and stop your stick and throw the ball into the net before your stick hits the net. That's tough. And put that on Sports Center. Put that on Sportsnet. Put that on whatever because it was tough. Like the ones that they're showing right now.
Listen, we got our own little, NLL summit going on right here. Like we got some good ideas.
This is what I sounded like at the summit. Was yelling at the commissioner. Like,
I'm
man,
just giving Travis
what about
the
this?
Yeah.
What about this?
While we're on lacrosse, you grew up in Coquitlam, correct?
Yeah, we're in Poco for
Poco.
10 years.
We
or
tell
so.
people we grew up in Coquitlam.
Yeah, we just say Coquitlam. It's simpler. Yeah.
Poco, okay. You grew up, you now play in the NLL. There's things that get you to that level. What do you guys do with training wise, nutrition wise? I know Jeff, you can bench like 400 pounds, which is ridiculous. But
I never got to 400.
You used to be able to
No.
do somewhere around there.
For 400.
What's your training look like weeks up to the game? Nutrition look like? Is it any different than your average Joe, or is you?
Yeah, like nutrition wise, I try to stay pretty flexible with myself. My big thing is like I don't eat to a regimen. Like I eat to feel good. So if I think feeling good is like crushing an extra large Dairy Queen Blizzard chocolate extreme, like I'm going to do that because I want to feel good. If does that look like, like a kale smoothie in the morning? Usually it doesn't, but when it does, I want to feel good. So I'm going to make that.
So you're listening to your body with it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, I think over time I've gotten a lot better at kind of recognizing like I do have my little binges. Like anything chocolate related, cheesecake, ice cream. Like those are my vices. Like I remember Pop saying it was like alcohol, drug, like no, like chocolate, cheesecake, ice cream.
Yep.
And there'll be times where I'm like sitting down with my bag of chocolate almonds and like, you know, those Costco bags?
Yeah.
And you know, when you open them and then you know when there's none left and you're like, shit. and you look at the time, it's been like an hour and a half. You're like, man, like I should have had like a real meal today.
You just put back 5,000 calories.
Yeah, effectively. So I'm definitely like, if I do something like that, then I'm very good at being like, okay, like I crushed like, you know, pretty unhealthy meal. My other 2 meals today, well, I wouldn't call chocolate almonds a meal, but unfortunately it was this morning. But like my other 2 meals today are going to be a lot healthier. I'm also going to like get a workout in, go for a run, and like try to like find some sort of balance, rather than kind of just letting it all slip downhill, which I've been guilty of every now and then, especially when I'm like lifting heavy weights and whatnot. And I just want to like eat my feelings and, you know, feel better that way. But my cardio is a little bit better than it used to be. So hopefully I can stay strong with this stuff because diet is tough.
Trav, what about you?
When you spend 3 hours in the gym like this guy in a row, like you can do whatever the hell you want.
3 straight hours?
When it used to be at SFU, it was like 3 hours a day, every day.
Wow.
Most of the time, like walking around, yelling random stuff at no one and looking in the mirror and doing whatever.
It worked.
Look at you.
I was good about it back in the day. Like I remember when I was at Mercyhurst, I would go like sometimes 2 a days. Had, you know, partial, it had something to do with a broken heart at the time, but that was my way of getting through it. But yeah, no, it was easier back then. Now I'm like, what am I, you know, going, but I'm not still playing professional lacrosse, so, or at all. Anyways. Go ahead.
All right. Eating wise, I don't know, man. I eat the same stuff.
Go ahead.
I eat the same stuff over and over again, like every day. Same breakfast, basically same lunch. Switch up the dinners. Pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Most of it's prepped like beforehand. Like I just try to prep my stuff. Get home on Sunday from a game, sleep a little bit, like nap, and then wake up and make my meals for the week. But workout wise, 2 favorite things right now. I bought an assault bike, like an Airdyne, like a Schwinn Pro or whatever. So I bought one of those. Don't got enough room at my place, so I put it at my parents' place in their garage. So I just go there. And those are quick workouts. Like I can go on that thing for like 12 minutes and just be completely spent, like shaking, lying on the ground, like can't even move anymore. So those are pretty crazy. And then we got the Crunch in Coquitlam.
Yep.
So the Crunch set of stairs, like 437 stairs.
Yeah.
I think you've seen Jake Elliott doing that.
Dude, now he's in the 200 mark today. He sent to the group. So congratulations to Jake Elliott, who's been killing it. Tarps off 2020.
Slimbo.
It's Slimbo, yeah.
I actually told him he should put on a 100-pound weight vest and go walk the Crunch and just like feel what it was like for him before, right? Like he dealt with that, right? So I was like, that would be an interesting experience. But so I do that 6 times, like the set of stairs. I run it. I do it 2 steps at a time, and that like I did that 3 days ago, and my calf still hurt today. So like those are my 2 big workouts. I don't get too much into the weights.
Yeah,
but, you're missing out, buddy.
Yeah, I'm missing out. Tuesday nights, I work out with Robert Church at Forge out there in Burnaby with Jeff Cathria. So that's just nice. Like you get a little bit of weights in, and then he makes sure that like all of your muscle groups are working together. And that stuff, like if I'm going to the gym, I'm just kind of like doing flat bench, or I'm doing this lift or that lift, and he just makes sure like with bands and whatever it is that all your muscle groups are working properly together, so you don't have like all the little muscles that you don't think about when you go to the gym. Yeah. So those 3 things keep me in good enough shape to keep going.
My last lacrosse question, and this is just me who wants to know this. I've noticed over the years, like guys gain these little like idiosyncrasies or like superstitions that happen before the games, you know, like for me, and I don't know why it is. Not that I like tie my shoes different way or the same way every single time or anything like that, but like I found myself kicking the boards before every game. Like for whatever reason, right before the huddle, I'll kick the board. And I don't know why I do it. But it's been happening for the last 7-8 years. So you guys got any weird shit like that you guys do? No? Yes?
Lots.
I got lots.
You got lots?
I got lots.
Like you have
the next hour on like
you have to do to perform.
It's not that I have to do it to perform. It's that I won't perform unless I do it. Like I just won't go out there until like all my steps have been checked off. Yeah, it's weird.
Give us a couple.
I think like probably the most pertinent of them is there's a poem I recite before every game.
Oh.
and I just like have to do it.
No.
So
Can you care to recite that for us?
I'm not gonna, I can't give away my like special poem,
Okay.
but yeah, like when we come out the tunnel and we're like waiting to like have our names announced and everything, I like kind of find myself like tucked away in the back, and I'll like talk to myself for a bit. And then I think like last game, I almost missed my cue to go out or something.
He did.
Yeah. I like, they're like waving my name, and I like looked around the corner. I'm like, oh great. Like I got to get out of here. So, but like it had to happen. I wouldn't be able to go out on the field if I didn't do it. So
They were like, damn video games.
You
again.
should
Oh yeah, man.
She just ran out there like you were the
He's just on
show.
his phone like this, and he like gives it to a kid. Take that back to my locker, kid.
Oh, Moroki, I'll be right back.
Had to finish that game. Had to finish that game.
Trav, you're up, man.
Man, I don't. I got like it's too many to count. Like I put my gear on like left side first, like my arm pads left side.
Okay.
All that stuff. Right side after. I got a million things, man. The biggest things in the lineup. I like to stand beside someone who sings the national anthem.
that's me.
Jeff sings it for a long time. It was like
Oh, that's cool too.
yeah. So for a long time it was like Chris Seidel in junior. He sang the national anthem, so I stand beside Chris so he could sing because I don't want to sing, but I like hearing it from someone else and just the anthem singer. But Jeff, turns out Jeff sings the national anthem. I never stood beside him in junior because I was standing beside Chris. It's been Nolan Hevner, a couple different guys over the years that sing the national anthem, so I stand beside them. The other big thing, you'll like literally every time you'll see me do no matter what, I never stand in the crease. Like after the national anthem's gone.
I do the same. I noticed that. You're in my spot sometimes.
National anthem goes, everyone's gathering up at the net for the pregame huddle.
Yeah.
I will never go in the crease. I'll stick my hand in there or whatever, but I won't step in the crease.
All right.
Yeah. So
I'm
those are two good ones.
I'm so glad I asked that question. I feel so less fucked up now because of you guys.
The one thing that you said was like you found yourself doing these things, and that's the truth. Like you don't plan on doing this. You just start doing it, and then one day you think about it, and then you're like, I have to keep doing this. Like I got to keep this.
I'm trying to remember back on anything that I had. I mean, it's been like 10 years since I've played, but if there was anything specific, I don't know.
I think I probably did it once. I probably had a really good game, and I was
You
like,
gotta
"What did I do
recreate it.
last game? What did I do?" I was like, "I kicked the fucking board," and then I cheered. I stood here in the draw, and now I stand right of the pipe every time I kick that board. Sometimes I switch up when I'm not having a good period, but here I am.
You're like, I shot the ball on this place. I ran really hard. I tried really hard, but I kicked the boards before the games. It must have been the kicking the board. That was the thing that got me the 4 goals.
I ate really well all throughout the week. Yeah. The kicking the boards, it was.
No boozing, no nothing. It was the kicking the boards, though. Kicking the boards.
Let's touch on maybe a bit heavier of a topic. You guys are a part of a racial minority playing lacrosse.
No.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, Tice?
Oh man, this got real awkward real quick. No, you get what I'm saying. Did you find that growing up, like, did you hear racial slurs growing up? Was it a part of your progress in the sport that you had to overcome, and if so, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, like it's something that it's weird because like, man, we grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I don't know of a better place to grow up, especially as a minority. Like it's an but like it's always something that could be there. And sometimes it plays in the back of your mind, especially if something happened recently. Like, yeah, stuff's been said on the floor. Like I've been told that like some kid when you're growing up, they tell you they're gonna like lynch you. I'm like 12 years old. I don't even know what getting lynched is.
12.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know what getting lynched is. And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to lynch you after the game. And I'm like,
how does he even know what that means?
Man, the internet, his parents, like whatever it is. Right. But like stuff like that, or like, I'm not even aware of this. Like, I'm so oblivious, like, Canadian kid, like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And they're telling you this stuff. Yeah. Like things have been said, like I've been called the N-word on the floor before, but like, you just got to brush that stuff off. When it happens in real life, like, that's when it really gets to you. Like it's happened to me a couple times in real life. Like I've literally just been walking down the street with teammates in Denver, and like someone like leans out their car and they like yell at me, and I'm just like, for the next like week, like I don't even know, because like I live my life in a way that like you're kind of beyond reproach. Like like my dad, when we grew up, he'd always tell us like you have to be like everything that they don't expect you to be, right? Like, and that's from like obviously like what the stereotypes are. He's like, he wants us to be like the opposite of all the stereotypes, right? And like I don't want to live just by that and just for that reason, but like I try to live my life in some way, shape, or form like that, and it just makes you feel like no matter what you do, right? Sometimes like there's always going to be people out there that like don't care what you do for your community. They don't care like how you live your life, how you hold yourself, right? Like it's not going to be enough. So that's it for me. Like, I don't know, man. Like that's all I got. Sorry, that got kind of.
No, it's interesting, and I like to hear it and hear about that. It's just not something that I've really known about, right? So, Jeff, if you've got experiences,
yeah, I think like there's obviously a handful of experiences I can draw on, but what I realized at the end of the day was like, if I cared about what other people said or thought about me, especially in the realm of sport, when I know that I'm out there like battling for my teammates, having fun, doing the best that I can do for myself and those around me, and like I can't let anyone take away from that.
Yeah.
Especially like if it's ignorant comments or like anything like that, I can't give them my happiness. So when things like that would happen in sports, not that it was super common, but it definitely did happen. It was really just something that I'd have to remind myself pretty quickly, like, like they don't know who I am, and that sucks for them. But like, I can't lose anything because of that. So yeah, it's one of those things like you deal with it, you try to move forward from it, and there's aspects that kind of stick with you. I think like a big part of the reason why I work so hard, not just like in lacrosse, but in all the aspects of my life is because of what Travis was mentioning earlier. Like, I don't want to fall into a stereotype where like anyone could say anything bad about me like that, or like ignorant or racial or anything like that, and like see it in myself at all.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of like battling against that, that phantom there that may or may not be there, but I don't even want to give the opportunity for that to be a reality for me.
When it comes to Black History Month, this clip and episode will drop next month, officially. Do you think the NLL maybe needs to do a better job of highlighting Black players who have played in the National Lacrosse League, or touching on the history there?
It could be useful. Like Jim Brown played lacrosse.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a useful thing to bring up every once in a while, that like he liked playing lacrosse more than he liked playing football. He just chose football because there's more money in it, right? So from that standpoint, I think there's some things to do. Like I don't think the guys in the league, like if you talk to Damon Edwards, you talk to Nick Rose or any of the guys are like Dane Smith out in Buffalo there, like I don't think any of us think there needs to be anything done. Like if you ask any one of us, we'll tell you that like the indigenous issues need to be addressed like long before anything around like Black issues need to be addressed. So like from that, I think the league has done a good job so far. They're kind of like trying to figure out what to do from that standpoint. But like that actually got brought up at the meetings, right? Where like, is it Jessica Berman? Jessica Berman's the new deputy commissioner.
Seems like she's been awesome so far.
She's awesome. I liked her. She's probably like number 2 on my list besides the sales guy.
Yeah.
But I guess the sales guy was probably just like selling himself. So Jessica Berman might be number 1.
By default. Yeah.
But she's talking about this commercial they did for the NHL and how they're talking about like what lacrosse meant to all these kids, right? So the kids would be talking hockey means this to me and hockey means that to me. And she's like, I want to do something similar with lacrosse, right? A similar commercial or similar marketing campaign. And Stefan LeBlanc raised his hands. He goes like for lacrosse, the thing about lacrosse is like what lacrosse means was already determined like 500 years ago.
Yeah.
And like that's already, you have to go ask them, talk to the indigenous community and find out like what lacrosse is, because they will tell you what lacrosse is, right? Like, yes, 5-year-old has a nice opinion on what lacrosse is. It's fun. It's, a lot of running, but like what lacrosse is supposed to
like
be.
The creator's game, medicine.
Has already been determined. And you can spin that, like you can sell that to people. Like it's medicine. Like it makes you feel good when you're playing it. You forget about your worries. You forget about everything that's going on in your life. That's what it's supposed to be for, right? So yeah, I think long before the league, it would be nice if they want to start trying to address a couple things, but like the focus needs to be around the Native American community.
And that's something that we saw last year, right? With Lyle Thompson, and just how more fans and even obviously employees of teams needed to be educated about certain things. Yeah. We saw that come to the forefront last year. And I think that from a media standpoint, we need to do a better job of talking about certain issues or just traditions, right? Like letting fans know, like you said, educate fans about what goals are difficult, what not, as they're becoming fans and learning about the game. But these are things that fans of lacrosse need to know about moving forward, right? And so we don't have those mishaps that happened last year.
Yeah, I thought that situation, I thought Lyle handled it really well.
He's a pro through and through.
100%. And he's getting his development as a player, like he's unbelievable. But like his development into like that kind of social commentary, like he's learning more and more and he's getting more and more comfortable. And he's going to be in the league for the next 12, 15 years, right? Like just to see that growth is going to be unbelievable. I think people were really good about that incident, but I think they missed the mark a little bit. Like I'm looking on Twitter, I roll through the comments and they're talking about like how they're like, oh, Lyle's a great guy. He's a great ambassador for the sport. He's a great player. He doesn't deserve this. And it's like, if you read what Lyle put out, he said that he hadn't heard anything like that since he was in high school. Like, according to that logic, like, did he deserve it when he was in high school? Like, no one, regardless if they play lacrosse, don't play lacrosse, suck at lacrosse, they're on the practice, no one deserves what Lyle was taking. I think that a lot of the time it's like that person is capitulating to what we want out of a person like them. Yeah. Right. So like for Jeff and I, right, if we're going out and someone says something racial to us, right, and someone posts on Twitter, it's like Jeff and Travis don't deserve that because they're acting white enough. Right. It's like, no, like I don't have to act a certain way to not deserve to be racially stigmatized like that. Sure. Right. Yeah. So I think that person, the people that were saying that were just trying to be nice and supportive. Right. But I think the mark gets missed when stuff like that said, because no one deserves to have that kind of comment made.
Absolutely. I think it was out of pure ignorance. Like the guy didn't necessarily mean to be malicious. Like he was obviously chirping, but he had no idea about the history and, why natives wear braids, right? Like there was no backstory. He just needed to be educated about this stuff. And that's part of missing the mark, right? We need to step up and say, educate yourself. And I think that was heard, at least after that incident, a little bit.
I thought the league did a really good job. They even had videos during the games. I think Frank Brown was on some of the videos educating the Philly fans about the traditions and how it is a Native American sport. But yeah, for that guy, like I totally understand. Like there's a lot of stuff in life that I don't understand. And I thought he did a pretty good job owning up to it as well. Right?
Yeah.
So, and like, I think in society, like we have cancel culture and stuff like that. That guy obviously didn't come back to the Philly Wings there. But just giving people an opportunity to apologize. And if he didn't want to apologize, then it's like, okay, you don't want to apologize, like see you later kind of thing, sure. Right? Like we're pretty sure that you were wrong in what you said. Yeah. But like we're pretty, like I'm confident saying that, right? Like I don't think anyone out there is not confident saying that what he said was wrong, but just giving that people an opportunity to clarify what they were saying or to say that, oh, I didn't understand this. It was an ignorant comment. Because I think if we just start firing people right away for everything, it just creates divisiveness, right? It's like, boom, you're fired. You're off to the side. If we give that person a chance to realize what they did, educate that person, then they can show everyone that would have been on their side, like, oh, no, actually, I think I was wrong. Right? Looking back on it in hindsight, I could have done something differently. Yeah,
a lot of people like, and not that they didn't have reason to be outraged, but they like to be outraged about things. Yeah. And it's something that they can come together on. And it creates divisiveness, but there's like the group that is outraged together and, they make up that family. Yeah. And
I might've been wrong, but like, I think Lyle even said like, I want to give this guy a chance, right?
He did.
Like I want to give this guy a chance. I want to give him a chance to be educated. If I could talk to him or whatever else to educate him, to help him understand like the history of the sport and why I wear my hair like this. Right. So
and like just grow as a human being. Like that's because we're talking about like growing the game, but like we also have an opportunity to help like the world grow in this sense, like become a little bit more worldly, understand different cultures and whatnot, what different people bring to the table. And I think lacrosse is, it's at a point where we're starting to break into that global scene where, or like, at least in like North America, like we're really starting to get that exposure and whatnot and kind of start sharing our stories. Yeah. So, like the growth is what it's all about. And whether it's getting more viewership, more teams, or just having more people kind of recognize the game that we play as like valuable. Like that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. And like, talk about the coolest story. Like no sport has a story like lacrosse, right? Like no sport that's played today has a story like lacrosse,
No.
like the origins. So like, why wouldn't we want to tell that story?
Yeah.
I didn't follow along with that what happened too much. So the guy lost his job. Did he end up coming back and publicly apologizing for it?
Yeah, he apologized. I remember an apology. But yeah, like, and definitely like just the education piece, just giving people a chance to grow. And like, I think that's the biggest piece. Because if you just say, oh, you're cut off now, and you send them, they're just going to join their side. You're on your side, and there's no reason to ever like come together for anything.
Yeah.
So
What about as a I don't know how to touch on this, as a player standpoint, like when players say, you know, things are said during games, what level of, you know, what standard should a player be held to if he says a slur or, you know, any sort of bigotry in a game, you know, and what do you?
it's been a long time, man. Like we're all like the guys in the pros, they're super respectful. Like we're all adults, right?
Yeah.
And we're all like pros, we're all like union members, we're all brothers basically in the league. So it's been a long time. Like I can't even remember the last time that somebody said something to me in a game.
It goes back to junior for me.
Yeah.
Like, or at least for anything that's been like ignorant or like kind of racially fueled. Like on the floor, in the pros, sometimes I'll get under people's skin. I don't usually say much though. It's just, maybe that's why I get under people's, or because I'm like kind of goofy. But like, you know, people make their comments and whatnot. They'll give you those jabs, but those are all part of the game. And I think that in our league, at least from my experience, the players do a very good job of keeping it to just that. You know, we compete very hard. Sometimes we get a little aggressive. There's fights and whatnot, but like, it's a league where after the game, like you see that guy in the hotel lobby, like he's your brother too. And I think that that's one of the coolest things that we have going in lacrosse is we're small enough still that everyone has played with everyone at some point in their career, whether they've been rivals their whole lives or, you know, they played like in the minors growing up together or college or whatever it is. And it's just so cool to, you know, be on the same team as somebody that you played with your whole life or, you know, be like an arch nemesis now to the guy that was getting you 3 assists a game.
Yeah.
Like I know this stuff still happens in the summertime, especially, right? Like you got the junior programs. There were some incidents this last summer when stuff like that's happening. Like you got to take a guy's word for it.
Yeah.
100%. I think there's got to be suspensions involved, some sort of education. But at the same time with education, it's like most of these guys already know all this stuff, right? Like they know it. They're just ignoring it, right?
Yeah.
They're ignoring the facts. They're ignoring what's happened. And like when you talk about the Indigenous community in Canada, like you have to think about what they've gone through, like the generational trauma that the Indigenous community's been through in Canada and have some understanding, right? So this guy's talking about all these stereotypes, but I'm like, who created the stereotypes in the first place, right? Like it's just, yeah, it was frustrating for me to see in the summertime that was going on. And you obviously know it's out there. And like there's certain teams that have been shut down in the States and there's been like racial comments back and forth with certain, I think there was a team, I can't remember where they're from, like in Montana or something like that, where the team got shut down because they're getting in too many fights. But it was the other teams that were saying racial things towards them or there was something that was going on. And yeah, I think like I don't know how to educate people. I think it's not going to be like, oh, you said something racial, you're suspended for 3 games. Here's a booklet, read the booklet and do the test and show us that you know all these things, right? It's going to come from like our league. It's going to come from the NLL. It's going to come from the PLL, like really grabbing on to the First Nations and whatever it is. And like showing people that this is how the game was created. These people are valuable. This is what they bring to the sport. Right. And we're going to lead the way with that. Guys like Lyle Thompson, they're going to lead the way with that. And I think that's where it starts, right? Like, I don't think you're going to change someone's mind, like educating them on it. It has to be something that happens naturally. And the bigger leagues and stuff like that, just really putting that at the forefront and showing that it's important, showing that it's not something to be made fun of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. To get onto a bit of a lighter subject, you guys have the opportunity to now play together once again.
Yeah.
How's that been so far? And what's it like to do that and Sask together?
It's honestly been a dream come true for me, especially. Like, I think this guy over here, he was just busy winning championships every year. Probably didn't even
Scoring huge goals against Buffalo.
Probably didn't even think about me once over the last 8 years.
Sitting at home, like tear coming down.
Yeah, man. And I was just, Like we had some great years in Calgary, some competitive years in Vancouver, but it was always in the back of my mind that like one day I want an opportunity to play with my brother. And the opportunity last year came up. I was a restricted free agent, so I got in contact with Derek Keenan. He says he doesn't sign guys to restricted free agent contracts. There's a lot of stuff going on with that, like with that in the league. Guys don't want to make other teams angry at them and stuff. So I understood that he didn't want to do that. But after the first week of camp, he saw that he might have a need for me. So he brought me in, and then it was just a matter of like waiting a year for my brother to get back. Obviously trying to win last year as much as we could, but like waiting that 1 year for Jeff to come back off his probation as a firefighter. So I thought about it a lot. It's been a dream come true. The guy could be a little bit more organized. Like we almost missed a flight a couple weekends ago.
We were fine, buddy.
Oh God, you don't even know. You don't even know.
Fine.
I picked this guy up. We did it. It was like Snowmageddon in Vancouver, right? It wasn't snowing then, but everyone was still super cautious.
Yeah.
I picked him up. Usually we only need like 30 minutes to get to the airport. I picked him up 40 minutes early. We got to the airport like 45, 44 minutes before our flight took off. And like usually we'd park in the parking structure.
Yeah.
But we're on the way there. We're like, we're not going to be able to park in the parking structure. Make it in time. So we're like literally just like making this plan step by step, adding to this plan of how we're going to get in there. So like basically by the end, we agreed that I was going to pull up to the WestJet departures, right? I was going to jump out of my side of the car. Jeff was going to jump out of his side of the car. He was going to take his bag out of the back of the car. I was going to pop the trunk, grab my check bag. I throw it to him, jump back into the driver's side. He runs inside, checks both of our bags because that's the most important thing at that point.
Yeah.
Let's get the bags checked. He has to argue with the lady, like, check the bags,
Both
check
of
the
them?
bags. Yeah, both of them. Pays for both of them. I go around park, bring all of our carry-ons in just so we can make the flight. And it's this guy's fault. 100%. Full stop. This guy's fault.
Well, what were you doing?
Just playing video games.
No,
That's
but like,
it.
and it's nonstop. Like the first weekend we're in Sask, he tells me the night before, he's like, make sure you come wake me up. Give me a call at this time. Like right before our flights are so early in Sask.
Yeah.
Like so
I love
early
it.
in Sask. He loves it. Our flight's at like 6:45. We're waking up at like 4:45 or something like that to catch a 5 o'clock bus. He's like, and this is like, you don't get to sleep until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, if at all.
Yeah.
But Jeff's like, he's telling me the night before, he's like, make sure you wake me up, call me at this time or whatever. We don't room together. I room with Marty. He's kind of random right now.
I'm streaming my roommates like I do my fantasy football defense.
All rookie roommates too, but he's telling me the night before, he's like, make sure you call me at 4:45 to wake me up. Well, I'm getting in the elevator at 4:45 and I'm just looking at the time. I'm like, well, I might as well just go to his room. So I went to his room, knocked on the door. He opens the door and I go in there and his roommate stuff is still everywhere. Austin Murphy, just roommate stuff.
Beauty.
But his stuff's everywhere. And rule number 1 in the league is you pack your stuff the night before.
Yeah.
You pack it, so when you wake up in the morning, you're like groggy. Some guys are hungover. Most guys are hungover.
They're still drunk.
So you just pick up your bag and you walk out the door. This guy's stuff is everywhere. So I'm on the phone with Marty. I'm like, Marty, hold the bus for us. Cause like, and this is the first 8 years, never missed a bus. First game with my brother, late for a bus.
Yeah.
Like,
Live a little, buddy.
but like his stuff's everywhere. So we're packing his stuff up for him. And I'm looking at Jeff and I'm just yelling, like Murphy, it's his like second game in the league. I'm looking at Jeff. I'm like, you're an idiot. This is your job. You're the veteran in the room. You got to make sure that his stuff's packed and he's ready to go. Like I've been the veteran in the room where I wake up in the morning, my roommate's still not back. And like, I pack their whole bag for them and put their passport on top of it. And I'm like, so he's ready to go and get on the bus. Then I go for breakfast. Then I make the bus.
Yeah.
But like this guy didn't have it together. The roommates just completely scattered. And we almost missed the bus.
The dog eat dog world, buddy. And I guess that's why I got a new roommate the next week. Maybe Austin didn't want to hang out anymore.
Late for the bus again, Austin.
Oh,
the next
man.
week. So yeah, I don't know. We got to figure that one out.
Yeah, well, so Colt's motioning to me. Do you have any questions for us? We like to kind of flip it on you guys by the end of it.
Yeah, we've set a record here so far. You guys are the longest guests on our podcast, so
Leave it to Travis.
Honestly, after every episode so far, and it's, nothing against the guests before, we're like, that was it. That was our best one yet. And I'm like, how can we get any better? And Teddy talked and he talked and he talked. But now I'm like, Shit, we're up here now. It just keeps getting better and better.
I don't think my intro is better, and I apologize for that, guys. It was a
Colton
lot.
can't
It was a lot of reading. There's a lot of cameras on me, and there's lights, and I started to get nervous. And
I
I'm
wasn't
like,
used to this many lights either.
I
I
was
was sweating
like,
at the start
holy-
of this interview. I was like, oh man.
Well, it was our first episode with 4 people here on set too, so it
big
took some
audience.
getting used to. I pumped your tires. Maybe I put too much pressure on you.
You
I was
did.
like, you
Yeah,
did great.
it's your
So
fault.
this is my fault.
Yeah,
I'll
we
wear
had
that.
we had the audio issue of episode 3 with Ben. You know, that was in the back of my head, and it's just been. Anyways,
That's what he's here for.
back to you guys. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't know. What do you guys want to see for the NLL, like in the next 2 seasons? So this year and next year, what's like a change that you guys would like to see?
Me?
I'll go first.
Yes.
I want hot tub guys and girls in every arena. So this one,
Equality.
It was addressed a
It
couple
was Dan
episodes ago.
Dawson. It was Dan Dawson
Okay,
that jumped in
we
the hot tub 100% at the All-Star game. I'm like,
I don't-
of all the guys in the league, I've never played with Dan. Jeff played with him for like
I think 6,
2
7
months or
games,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to find.
He
something here.
has probably the best reputation around the league for being the biggest jokester and like,
Oh, he's
oh yeah. Mike Poulin actually has a great Mike Poulin story. Mike Poulin got
He's hilarious.
Okay, Pooley is hilarious. One of the best teammates I've ever had. But he got a lacrosse ball signed by all of the Ottawa Senators because they were in the Boston Gardens the night after the Ottawa Senators had been there. And if you know Pooley, the guy brings his Ottawa Senators towel to like every game. Like that's what he takes to the shower. Like that's what he loves the Senators. And this is when like Heatley and like Spezza were on the team. So he has the ball. And Dan Dawson walks back into the room wearing his Beats headphones.
Yeah.
And Pooley's sharing this ball around, like, oh, everyone look at this ball, look at this ball. They pass it to Dan Dawson. Dan Dawson's got headphones on, doesn't know what's going on, pulls out a Sharpie and signs it. So
He's
got
everything.
Who's got a Spezza, whatever, Heatley, Dan Dawson, lacrosse ball, right? Like, and the part about Doss is like, he's such a jokester. Apparently, like, again, I've never met the guy. Like, I met him a couple times, but I've never played on a team with him. But like, his reputation precedes him around the league, and stories like that. I love I love stories like that. I love sharing stories like that just from like other guys around the league, and that's one of my favorite parts of playing.
Yeah.
Is that like you get to hear about other guys and like just funny stories.
The little bits, and everyone's got their own thing.
And that's a clean one for the fans out there.
Yeah.
So, you know.
One other thing I'd like to see, one thing that the PLL did that I liked was they kind of changed the dress code a little bit. I know the summer leagues are a little bit, they've just more flair out of the guys. You know, I like it when they dress in unique outfits. It can still be professional, but you know,
I think you're starting to see that. And I think teams are doing a pretty good job on social media of guys walking into the arena.
they wear a
Looking
hat.
all
He's saying like suits and
swaggy.
stuff like that, right? It's kind of boring, or is that what
Yeah,
you're
it's a
saying?
little bit boring. You know, I want to see more personalities arise. Is great. You know, you see a couple guys in each team.
Like, just please let me wear a suit. That's all I have to say. This guy wore the same suit
I was going to say that.
for 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
Never took it out of his bag. Like,
You're what's
literally
wrong-
would
you're
go
what's
into
wrong
the
with
weight
the
bag,
league.
and then he'd pull it out. Wear
Oh,
it
so
to
the travel bag. You're
the
talking
travels,
about.
and then he'd take it out for the game, wear it to the game, wear it back to the hotel, put it back in the bag, and then it would come out for the next game. Dry clean it once a year. Never worry about it. But like, you know, when you got so many things going on, you can simplify certain parts of your life, I guess. But like, you wouldn't want to. Jeff would walk in like a pair of sweatpants to the game, and just like if there was no dress
That's
code,
some flair.
like that. You know what I'm
That's-
saying?
Like, if it works, why not? That's
Sure. My turn. So one of the things you talk about guys around the league, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but like getting players who have played in the league, maybe now retired, to get like on the broadcast a little bit more too. And like real notable guys like Colin Doyle is unreal for sound. He buys in. He's great. Mark Stainhouse, we need to tap into that and get him involved somehow. You see the success, and it got tied in with lacrosse this season with Paul Bissonnette. And, you know, he's an ex-NHL guy who's coming back. He gets it. He's got the respect from a lot of people. And now he's just blown up into like the biggest thing in hockey now. We need to start trying to do that in lacrosse somehow, just get these guys on board. And then I think number one, TV deal. It just has to be there. And we have to get fans discovering the sport a little bit more. And I'm talking like, you know, when I started working with the NLL, having like projecting it and telling people that I was working with the league, they'd be like, well, you know, what's that? They didn't know much about it. But having them go home, they're flicking through the channels, and family of mine, they're like, oh, that's what Tyson works in or whatever. And it's not a personal thing, but it just needs to get out there, and we need to be able to watch it at bars and get fans starting to become hardcore fans. And I talked about this on Off the Crossbar. Maybe it's like betting, which is steps are being taken to that. I would like to see fans kind of, have more of a craving for analysis of the game and, the line combinations and what's happening, who's on the IR or whatever. And maybe that's a betting thing, a gambling thing.
Jeffrey, questions?
I want to know who your next guest is going to be on the show.
Well, we've also been kind of, giving it to our guests and saying, who would you like to see on?
Yeah, that's
So
a
we're
better
open to
question.
recommendations.
We'll tell you after this who we have in mind. We don't have anybody set in stone, but whereas before we had the first two guests kind of set in stone for us with Logan Just and Curtis Dixon, which was nice. They kind of said they're like, yeah, we'll come on. So we had them back to back. We knew, but now we're week to week. We'd like to say that we aren't.
Okay, so we should address this though. We obviously have geographical limitations.
Yeah.
So
Like, you can get a guy on the phone, but it's not the same.
no,
right?
we need in person. That was one of the things we wanted to be committed to, is like having guys, face to face. It just communication wise makes for a better chat, really. But next week, this is going to go on Wednesday, but Buffalo is in town.
Okay.
And they've got some personality. So if we can get those guys.
And you know what? Those guys might tell you a couple things. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of those guys don't have jobs outside of lacrosse.
Are we
so
talking
you might
about Josh Byrne, maybe?
Josh Byrne, and those guys, yeah.
Dane Smith.
Dane Smith,
Yeah.
Case Fraser. They don't have jobs outside of lacrosse, so they might tell you a couple things. Unfortunately, I got to go back to work tomorrow and, face my principal and all my colleagues. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, I don't know if Josh Byrne, Dane Smith, Chase Fraser, you guys are listening. We'd love to have you on.
You might have to talk to their PR agent or something like that. Those
Shout
guys
out-
are pretty big time.
They are. No, they are.
They're pretty big time.
They are. Put a call in to Scott Loeffler. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining, taking the time out of your evenings. Like I said off the hop, you were two guys that we wanted to get on. It's awesome to have you guys sitting here together as well. Fantastic guests. And Josh, Dane, Chase, you're going to have a lot to live up to here, because this was one solid episode. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. And as always, click the link to subscribe. Follow us on all the platforms. You guys have social medias that you maybe want to throw out there? Or do you even care if anybody
Corn Dog?
follows you? Yeah, Corn Dog.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at corndog13. The dog is spelt kind of in a different way, so give a look.
Okay.
You'll get you know what? He won't flood your timeline with stuff. You'll get something every 6 months out of him. Same with me, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty bad at it. They were talking at the league meeting. They're like, "Oh, we got to get everyone into the social media, kind of like PLL style."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Man, you're gonna have trouble with some guys in the league." Like,
What
But,
did Delb say? It was because Canadian guys are a little bit more like humble with everything.
humble. Like, I don't think the stuff that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis is interesting. And
Yeah.
to be honest, like, it isn't. I'm emailing parents. I'm like talking to my principal, talking
Check
to my
it
colleagues.
out.
I'm like, "Oh, look at this email I just
Yeah.
sent." Take a selfie with a kid who just got an A on their test. Like,
Right.
It's cool to me. It's fun. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think my workouts are super interesting. I don't think the food I'm eating is super interesting. I think some fans might be interested, but
Yeah.
personally, I don't think it's that interesting. So I don't really put it out there. And like, more private too, right?
Mhm.
And like, I think the capitalist mindset of some American guys, right? Like, it's very much like, I got to monetize this, monetize that.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I just want to play lacrosse,
Mhm.
get better,
Yep.
Yeah.
Not me. I want to be famous. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night. We're still looking for sponsors. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Strip Podcast. Catch a new episode every Wednesday. We're giving away prizes every week. Follow along with our social channels at Lacrosse Flash.